Music is a very effective tool filmmakers use to guide the audience through the emotions they're supposed to feel in the movie. This is especially important for a movie like Inside Out 2, where our protagonists literally are emotions. So I was wondering, what would happen if we removed the music entirely? Can the animation and the voice actors convey the same emotion without any music, or do the emotions suddenly fall flat or even change? To figure that out, I used AI to remove all music and most sound effects from Inside Out 2. That turns a scene like this one into something more like this. Yeah, I really watched this entire movie like that. Now, before I'll get into my general experience of watching this movie without music and try to explain why Pixar's animation team is just amazing, I want to give you the feeling of what it's like to watch Inside Out 2 without music. Then you can form your own opinion and feel free to leave that in the comments below. And to give you that feeling in a condensed form, here are 5 scenes where you really notice the missing music, ranked from least to most dramatic. The first scene I want to show you is when we first enter Riley's belief system. This scene usually features really nice, calm music that makes this place feel magical.
I'm kind. Oh, that's nice.
Without music, scenes like this lose a lot of their charm.
I'm kind. Oh, that's nice.
Although the animators made this place look amazing with its oasis-like feeling, I find it fascinating how much of a difference that subtle music makes. In terms of how different this scene feels, I'd give it a 4 out of 10. While it's interesting, it is pretty subtle. Music is also often used in a very effective way when it suddenly stops.
See that? Well, then she's delusional.
When the music suddenly goes quiet, we just know that something is about to go down, and that kind of puts us at the edge of our seat. But without music, you can't really use audible cues like that.
See that? Well, then she's delusional.
Without music, we have to focus a lot more on Joy's body language, and we can still see that this comment hit her. Because of the look she gives us, she stops doing what she was doing and doesn't instantly answer. I would say this scene works as good as it can without music. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. In this next scene, Riley breaks into the office as a police officer is looking for her, and they actually didn't use any music here. Just kidding, of course they used music. This is how the scene really was. It's the classic music from a horror movie which gets louder and louder, and when it stops, we know that we're safe. Without music, it didn't really feel that suspenseful, right? Because of that, this is an 8 out of 10 for me. The music was pretty essential for this scene. However, there is one detail in this scene that I think is really clever, but more on that later. This next scene is, I think, just funny, because with music everything seems completely normal, obviously.
Pencils down! Projections off!
The music lets us know that this is a triumphant moment that we should celebrate. Without music, however, it's different.
Pencils down! Projections off! Yeah! Enough is enough!
Enough is enough. There's nothing wrong with the visuals, but that's just what happens to some scenes without music. For me, this is a 9 out of 10. That's almost as good as the difference gets. In the climax of the movie, where anxiety almost ruins Riley's life, we of course get very dramatic music. Here's a little clip to remind you how it felt.
Come on! We can do this! It's not working!
Without music, this audible drama is of course lost.
Come on! We can do this! It's not working!
The entire climax, however, is I think a total masterclass in visual storytelling. For those of you that saw my video on Pirates of the Caribbean without music, you may remember that I didn't like how that climax felt without music. But in this case, it's just so well done. Pixar uses so many great techniques in this climax that really stood out to me when I focused exclusively on the visuals. And now that you've seen what happens when we remove the music from different scenes, let's take a closer look at Pixar's brilliant visual storytelling and why it works or sometimes doesn't. But before we can dive into what Pixar did so great, we have to understand that the visuals in movies don't exist alone. Their entire job is to enhance the story that's being told. And I'm simplifying now, but a typical story starts off where everything is okay, and then the story's intensity increases gradually until it reaches its maximum intensity at the climax. The entire job of the visuals is to reflect that visual intensity of the story. And I guess that's one thing which is so amazing about animated movies, because they have so much creative freedom to show us visual intensity. In this case, the climax takes place in two places. One is from Riley's perspective.
Come on, Riley. Get it together. I'm not good enough.
And the other one is from inside her head.
But it's all been for nothing. Anxiety, you're putting too much pressure on her.
The visual representation of Riley's perspective is so intense, with the dramatic lighting, the contrast, her expression, her sweaty skin, and how she's constantly scratching herself. I mean, just look at the intensity in this shot. I mean, I'll call it a shot, but to think that somebody animated this, just amazing. And it gets even better inside her head. Here, everything is dark with an orange hue, and anxiety is moving faster and faster, and then even turns into a freaking tornado. It doesn't get much more visually intense than a tornado. I mean, if I had to show somebody an example of visual intensity, I'd show them this scene. What I also love is when Joy manages to get inside the tornado and we see anxiety moving at super speed, but at the same time she's basically frozen in place. And I think that's just a perfect representation of anxiety. It's like from the outside our mind is moving so fast and we're thinking so rapidly, but on the inside we're not really thinking anything. At least not clearly, and we're almost paralyzed because of it. But Pixar's brilliance doesn't stop there. If we take another look at the story structure graph, we can see that after the climax, the intensity rapidly drops. So how does Pixar visualize this shift in intensity? Well, first, the entire ambient color of both inside and outside Riley changes as the sun comes out after it's been dark for about the last 30 minutes. We see how the control panel lights up with Joy's yellow glow, and how smoothly Joy is controlling it gives us such relief after watching Anxiety's complete insanity for about the last hour. Watching Joy in control with her soft movements is so relaxing, and on Riley's outside this is represented with beautiful slow motion shots of her just enjoying hockey again. The camera motion is smooth and it doesn't cut as much. All of this is the complete opposite of the visual intensity we had to endure during the climax. Now, of course, I prefer the climax with music because it just adds to the intensity and relief. Especially scenes like this one lose a lot of their magic without the heartwarming music. But watching it without music definitely made me notice many visual techniques. Let me know what you think of the climax in Inside Out 2 in the comments. Please, share your thoughts. But moving on from the climax to a scene that didn't work so well without music. Yeah, pretty quiet, right? This scene usually sounds like this. Now, are the visuals bad because it didn't function without music? I don't think so. Scenes like this just rely on music, but since this video is about watching Inside Out 2 without music, I also wanted to include some examples where it doesn't work. What does work, however, are the tricks Pixar uses to make us feel uncomfortable with the color orange in this movie. Sure, colors like blue and red are typically associated with sadness and anger, but orange isn't typically a bad or uncomfortable color. Usually orange is actually a nice color. A sunset is orange, a campfire is orange, but in this movie when I see the control room or Riley's belief system shining orange, I don't like it, and I would guess that you had a similar experience. That's because Pixar repeatedly establishes orange as something negative in this movie, starting with Anxiety's character design. Although Anxiety isn't evil, in this movie she is a problem for Riley, and they could have also made her look cute, but instead they made her look not cute. I don't even know how to describe her design. Another example is in Imagination Land, where we witness how Anxiety is using Riley's creativity against her, and her brain cells look all depressed. This depressing scenery is lit entirely in orange, but when Joy and Anger free the brain cells and they look all happy, the scene loses its orange hue, symbolizing that orange is bad. And then we have Riley's belief system, where her new orange-colored belief is so terrible.
I'm not good enough. What?
And that brings me back to the little detail I talked about when Riley wanted to steal the coach's notebook. In this scene, we're afraid of the police officer, so here he's something negative because we don't want him to catch Riley. And do you notice something about the color of his flashlight? To me, it seems very orange for a flashlight. This would again establish orange as something negative. Now, I may be completely wrong with this, but it comes back to what I said before, that this is an animated movie, and somebody had to decide what color this flashlight has. And it could have been a lot brighter and more yellowish, but instead it turned out to be very orange. Maybe I'm taking it too far here, but let's just call it my fan theory.
I'll just be downstairs if you need me.
Analyzing the visuals of an animated movie is especially fascinating to me because it's not only that everything we see on screen is planned out, but everything we see on screen is created basically from scratch. Sadness isn't blue by accident, joy didn't just have blue hair, and anger didn't just appear as a box-like figure. Everything we see is intentional, and some visual choices may carry a deeper meaning, especially with a studio like Pixar. Are the emotions lost when you watch this movie without music? Well, they're not lost, and they definitely don't change. The visuals are always very fitting to what we're supposed to be feeling in that moment. But one thing where I'm amazed I didn't think of this earlier, because of the whole concept of this movie where something happens to Riley, and then we look inside her head to see the exact emotions she's feeling, this movie never runs into the problem other movies without music can run into, where something happens and because the visuals aren't great, we have no idea what somebody's feeling when there's no music to guide us. In this movie, it is of course very obvious what Riley is feeling at every moment, but nonetheless, several scenes are a lot less emotional without music. However, Pixar more than made up for it with a visual masterpiece of a climax. I hope this experiment also made you appreciate visual storytelling a lot more. Please share thoughts on what other movies we should watch without music, and I'll see you in the next one.